on or later down the draft. But first ban, no surprises here. 5.2 going to be that Viger, followed up by the Lissandra, Cassidy, and Azir being taken away here as well. Azir sort of the only ban that's sort of going to stick out as far as the 5.2 meta is concerned, but interesting. Going to aim for that corn in the mid lane here.
And we've seen a couple of Azir bans and Azir takeaways. Azir, of course, still very strong on 5.2. A lot of these bans are going to change on 5.4. We know that for sure. Of course, on the live patch, Vega support not as strong. You don't have the instant cast on the event horizon, so it kind of takes away from the flexibility of early picking that Vega. Lissandra and Cassidy. Lissandra is probably the only champion of those four that's still going to be seeing bans.
Yeah, so we'll see what actually happens to this ban list. Of course, 5.4, maybe a little bit more jungle focus going to be there. And LeBlanc hasn't actually been touched, but Korn very, very strong on that champion. But it is also the Ahri that he probably would have wanted to pick up, but Wayless more than happy to take that away from him.
Both Wayless and Korn had massive carry performances on Ahri in Week 6, so it's understandable that on patch 5.2, with that Ahri so overtuned, so strong, understand that it's first picked, a very safe blind pick mid laner. Okay, there's no flexibility. It's not going to be a top lane Ahri. It's going to be a mid lane Ahri, but very, very powerful on 5.2.
Yeah, and speaking of flex picks and comfort champions coming through for Royal Club, Zero, he's picked up his Thresh, the most comfortable champion for that player, and Insec or Cola going to have that Hecarim for either the top or the jungle, but I have a feeling it might be in the jungle here.
He's got Flash Ignite as his summon spells now, so we don't necessarily know.
Not even jungling.
That would be a big change. Relic Shield, duo lane Hecarim. I don't think we're going to see that, but with that Vi being considered, this of course would pigeonhole Hecarim back towards the top.
Yeah, Vi being considered, but also the opportunity to pick up a Morgana here away from LGD, really focus on Imp, who, you know, probably wants that Black Shield to stop getting locked down here by the potential Vi to come through.
But Imp has locked in the Kalista. We see the Vi does come through. That is the answering perk. Morgana's open. You'd have to think it's going to be the Kalista Morgana lane, or they could go full aggro and take the Leona.
And I very much actually like the Leona pickup, although, you know, the Thresh has already been locked in here, but having their own form of engage to really get aggressive in this game could be huge. And
we didn't consider, guess whose Rumble is available? Flames? No, actually, much more scarily. Acorn's Rumble. Ever since 2011 has been playing this champion in competitive, so strong on the Rumble. They even picked the Leona. They don't go for the obvious Morgana pick just to counter the Assault and Battery. They say, all right, you can do that, but Acorn, you can never give him setup CC and then an Equalizer, because they are always on point.
Yeah, and this is fantastic as well because they've got so much pick potential around this mid-game. What with the Charm being available, the Zenith Blade to come through here as well from PYL if he decides to do some roaming, which may be a little bit difficult as you mentioned, but it's going to be a Lux lock-in here for the mid lane.
Man, some of these picks are exciting to me because they're unconventional. They're not what we'd expect. If we saw, for example, the Morgana come through, you're like, all right, it deals with the Assault and Battery, nice counter pick coming through. But instead, they went for the Solar Flare, layering the Equalizer over that cooldown. In terms of the mid lane, against a strong assassin, they've picked Lux. They've gone from a long-range AoE wave clear and just opened up Ahri to roam. Ahri should have plenty of roam pressure coming through because Lux, especially without levels, can't instant clear those minions and can't walk up to a Ahri, otherwise she'll be charmed and die, especially on 5.2 with as strong as she is. And the excitement doesn't end there. Acorn on Rumble, and Cola, for once, wrestles the Hecarim away from Insec.
I know, very interesting. Of course, that Vi coming through, and that might have been what LGD thought. They're like, okay, this is going to be Insec's Hecarim in the jungle. Let's pick that Kalista away. We know that she's going to be safe, but that hard engage from the Vi, as we can see in the hands of Insec, going to be very, very powerful. And like you mentioned, this Lux pickup, very strange.
There's a lot of assertiveness available for LGD just because Starhorn Royal Club, they're going to have to be playing defensively. Hecarim doesn't have Flash, it has to lane very defensively or can be ganked. Now Lux, we just mentioned, has to lane so defensively because she ever eats a charm and Rek'Sai's around, gonna die as well. However, we just saw in the previous series, Rumble can be run over by the Hecarim. Even the Teleport Ignite Hecarim, without a magic resist pickup, we saw a Hecarim outscale a Rumble, but this is Acorn's Rumble. That's what we have to remember. And his potential, he definitely caps out the ceiling of a Rumble.
Well, that's exactly right, and we'll see whether he can be that strong as we hop onto the Rift.
Okay, hello again.
Oh, hey,
let's get into the game.
We kind of want to get into the game. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen, with LGD taking on Starhorn Royal Club. As you can see, Papa Smithy, he's unseated for this particular matchup because he's so excited and wants to make sure he can demonstrate it for everyone. Of course, TBQ hanging out here next to this brush, and we'll see whether any funny business goes down early on, but I have a feeling, judging by the positioning of these players, that nothing too much going to go on.
And even if you just look at the minimap, but you look at the champions on the left, Acorn's already built up a lot of his passive here, as he wants to try and overheat early on a first auto attack in a trade. He really wants to start Q and try and force an overheat trade at level 1, because no one can stand up to an overheated Flame Spitter auto attack trade at level 1 against a Rumble.
Yeah, and Rek'Sai, fantastic there for clearing early wards if she's in position. Just activates that Q and eats it all the way up. So an extra 10 gold here in the hands of LGD. Good start.
Imp and PYL, they're back to this Kalista, which actually also was associated with the start of the decline in fortune for LGD. So they've had a couple of extra weeks to workshop, but this lane matchup had kind of pigeonholed PYL into staying in lane, not being able to roam around the map, and he was kind of punished, both PYL and the team, for the lack of ward coverage that usually PYL would account for. Be interesting to see if they have new strategies to counter the fact that they're going to need the whole team to help with warding, not just the roaming support.
Yeah, and their decision is actually to go for a bit of an experience advantage by taking away these Krugs here on the bottom side. Of course, TBQ, formerly, of course, Schwen, we did used to call him that, but I'm going to go back to TBQ for now. But he's going to be clearing away his Gromp. So Cola also about to die to the Raptors.
So what did we learn about Cola taking Raptors level 1? He definitely can't full clear the camp, and he might die anyway.
Yeah, so Strange did actually pop a whole bunch of that flask. Of course, going to regen as he heads back to base, and we'll see whether he teleports there into the top lane. Is just going to teleport to the turret. Hopefully he doesn't miss out on too much, but that is still 3 CS, and those little popcorn chickens still worth a bit of gold. Yeah,
I feel like he'll be a couple of creeps ahead, but in the bot lane we're seeing some very aggressive trading. I don't think Wall's going to fall, but he lost out to level 2.
Yeah, and actually, oh my goodness, the damage to come through from him just bounces away from it, and first blood in a 2v2 situation goes to Kalista?
Yeah, Zero only had Flay available, didn't get the right amount of displacement, you'd think, and actually allows him to get the last few auto attacks. And you're right, Graves should be winning this lane really importantly at level 1, but with that extra level 2, they just didn't account for the experience they entered lane with.
Yeah, really beautiful stuff coming through from LGD and capitalizing on that Krug start early, and Royal Club just not respecting it.
You talk about matchups, you talk about theory, but when we get a level 2 kill for Imp, there's definitely a real possibility that Imp could run over this lane.
Yeah, and we've seen this Graves-Kalista matchup go all sorts of different ways, but most of the time Graves has been successful after a lane swap. Gets to that level 6 mark, then these players have to go back down to the bottom lane into the 2v2 situation, protect for that dragon, as Schwen's going very aggressive here in the mid lane. Of course, TBQ coming through with that unburrow, but not going to find too much. But they get a flash out of Korn, and that is very important on this immobile Lux.
Well, you thought Korn had to position safely before because of the threat of Charm. So much safer now. There's the flash.
Yeah, there's the flash unburrow to come through here as well. PYL pays a visit to the mid lane, and they pick up yet another kill. LGD, this is a reinvigorated team.
They're on form. The aggressive rotations across the map, and now suddenly you look at a big hole in this comp of Starhorn Royal Club. They needed to play passively early if they wanted to get just the matchups navigated, and it's only getting more so now.
Yeah, Wayless actually finds Insec here as well. Orbital Deception going to hit just once there. But, I mean, this is what happens. Of course, Imp gets an advantage to the point where he can stand in lane on his own, and PYL just makes plays.
Absolutely, and it just changes the texture of this game extensively when Kalista's the one that actually runs the bottom lane. When Graves has to play reactively, it's going to be much like Candy on Corki last game, who had just had to seed lane to a Graves. Graves should never be seeding lane to a Kalista.
Yeah, PYL actually so healthy here at the same time. Well in a lot of trouble as the Sentinel's even going to spot him, and he gets rendered to death. There was nothing that Graves could do.
The first kill was a big one. The second one just basically commits this lane straight to Imp YL. Maybe we will be able to see the roaming Leona, because with those 2 kills, Imp is going to have a massive gold advantage over Well. It's almost 1,000 gold at 5 minutes.
Yeah, and Well actually pigeonholed into going for the first buy Brutalizer here, so not going to be able to pick up that BF sword early, but that is going to give him a little bit of earlier pressure, but what does that mean for the late game for this Graves, or for the mid game especially?
So if you can afford to go BF Sword into Brutalizer, you can do a lot of burst damage, and with the change on Infinity Edge, it might be the most damage early, but if you just go straight Brutalizer and just don't even have a BF Sword item, you're going to have a harder time clearing waves, and you're really pigeonholed into hoping for someone to face check you and to get a massive burst of damage down at 6, but he's going to be under-leveled, he's not going to be able to control the wave as well, and Imp, you thought he had an advantage before, it's just getting bigger.
Oh my goodness. Well, actually, maybe again a little bit out of position. Quick Draw going to get him over that wall here as well as PYL. I mean, he's the mobility boots ahead of Zero, and that's exactly what he wants. Of course, we talk about mobility boots. You need to capitalize on having that extra movement speed in order to get deep vision. Of course, the roams to come through, and who's more guaranteed to get that value than PYL?
But amusingly, it's not the deep vision that we have to think about the Moby boots for on the lane. Look at the lane. With the lane being held back, PYL, the only challenge Aleona has is closing distance before she gets her ultimate. She can just walk confidently, just help Imp zone away the Graves and Thresh, and they were behind before. It's already double CS, and it doesn't look like it's going to get any better anytime soon.
Yeah, Wayless even cheating towards that bottom side, and yeah, you were talking about him being able to walk faster. He's basically jogging at Royal Club now.
They're just so zoned in terms of space. There's nowhere they can go. Obviously, PYL dreams of a turret dive, not quite level 6 yet. Gets hooked in, but there's just nothing that Zero and Well can do.
Yeah, doesn't even get hit by that smoke screen here at all. And TBQ did manage to steal away some wolves. Oh no, just got spotted out.
The scary thing is that their jungler is Vi, so she can't even really relieve pressure until she hits level 6. And Insect dealing with a losing bottom lane, a losing mid lane, and top lane going competitively. He does have options. They are very, very pushed to LGD, but he's being pressured in multiple parts of the map.
Oh my goodness, Schwen again here in this mid lane. The laser just going to get Spirit Rushed out of the way of. And Wayless just still continuing to get further and further ahead. And look at where the kills are going. 2 on Kalista and 2 onto Ahri. That is terrifying for Royal Club.
But it is decisive, calculated jungling coming out from TBQ. Wayless is caught in transition, falling low.
Yeah, there's actually the Assault and Battery here onto Wayless as well. No ultimate to speak of. Orbit Deception going to come through, but Zero just going to auto-attack him away. TBQ just going to take a consolation blue buff. Ahri does fall down, but of course it's only a little victory here for Royal Club.
Yeah, TBQ did not scout out the pink ward at the blue buff, so was spotted out. Caught in rotation was Wayless. It's a small, small victory, as you say, because otherwise across the map, apart from the top lane, things looking fantastic for LGD.
Yeah, and Acorn still going perfectly even here in this top side of the map as Korn just going to clear out this mid lane. TBQ going to yell at his tunnel here at the Raptors and join that one in order to pick up.
So I mentioned decisive jungling and strong jungling from TBQ. What I love is he went in early, blew the Flash of Lux, the repeated wraparound gank in 30 seconds, and then ganking Lux a third time before Flash was available. Flash was about 30 seconds away from cooldown. The communication, the timing of those ganks, wonderful. And you know from this lane matchup, it's going to be Lux staying far back, wanting to clear waves. The moment she walked up to get some CS, there was TBQ.
Yeah, and TBQ perfect positioning here. Always there in order to pick up the kills, but now there are some pink wards, some deep vision here as well coming through to help Korn out so that he can stay safe in this lane. PYL actually very aggressively placed as Wells moved very far back. Look at Korn just get destroyed by Wayless. More than happy to tank up this turret. PYL now might find himself in a dangerous position as Wells rotated around. There's a Pre-Seeker from TBQ, but he doesn't want to go too aggressive. Korn, he picks up PYL, and LGD maybe be going a little bit too aggressive. The charm lands on a Zero here, but the laser beam for the double kill as Acorn's found his way around, silences himself. There's the scrap shield, but not sure whether it's going to be quite enough as he is forced to flash away. But that's a 1 for 2 there for Royal Club.
Just overly aggressive was PYL. They did not need to look for a turret dive with him still close to level 6, but not pinging it. About 2 melee minions away from level 6. The extra lockdown, that might have been enough to pick up a couple of extra picks, but Korn's flash was just available. Just praising them on their extra timings. That one was a bridge too far.
Yeah, Imp actually trying to come through here and get some pressure onto Royal Club as they're taking this dragon, but Insects come around here as well. There's the Assault and Battery. Imp, you ain't going nowhere, buddy, and he's just going to die, maybe playing a little bit overly aggressive.
Yeah, PYL giveth and PYL taketh away. That snowball is so quick, and suddenly they lose 3 members and the dragon after being so far ahead in the game. And now even bot lane, the pressure's being relieved. Imp's dead. Well's able to farm, even with his build all over the place. Just, you know, cost effective, whatever he could purchase, buying every AD item that he could. He finally gets to farm and close what was previously a 40 CS lead.
Yeah, well, able to dig a lot of things, and he's got some swords here as well in his back pocket. Flat AD, though, works out quite well here for Graves.
It's not going to be a Last Whisper rush, at least I hope not, coming through. But he's, you know, he's going to work towards an Infinity Edge. He's going to work towards his other items. He can't stand up in a trade to the Imp yet, but look, if Imp dies in transition a second time, buys more time for Graves to farm. He's not the hyper carry that Imp is, but he'll be useful in a fight. The burst is still there.
Yeah, and Korn very happy with that double kill that he picked up as well, able to clear out some waves a little bit more effectively as TBQ's looking for Cola. Dark passages there from Zero, who always seems to be in the right position to help out his team. And Wayless not going to be able to find anything with his roam from the mid lane, and they have to be using this Ari for these roams, but that one not quite working out. Does mean that they have a lot of pressure in this top side, though.
And Cola, look, he's on Hecarim. He wants Trinity Force. He's already purchased Merc Treads. Already spent 1,200 gold on his boots. He's looking for a long laning phase. He's the only member of Starhound Royal Club who's really happy with the long laning phase and how this game has started. He's very competitive in CS. He hasn't had to buy a Spectre's Cow. He's only gone for the Merc Treads. But he's not looking to group, so that's why LGD trying to push down his turret and just force advantages early while they have the Equalizer and Acorn to back them up.
Yeah, mid lane turret is under a little bit of pressure here, but going to be moved away from here from Wayless, who really wants to find something to do around this map. Capitalize on his early Morellonomicon double Doran's Ring purchase. Answered by Korn pretty effectively here, of course. Only 400 gold down as far as that item is concerned, the extra Doran's Ring to come through. So he's still doing absolutely fine, and we'll see whether this Lux can be helpful in the late game. Of course, that shield goes pretty underrated.
But the issue is that Korn has to position so safely against Wayless and all the roams that are coming through, with the laning phase ended so early in the bottom lane. And we've already mentioned Hecarim wants to be defensive. He wants a long laning phase as well. So they have significant passivity in both their top and mid lane matchups. And they've got a Graves who's just trying to find farm wherever he can. He's actually killing the Wolves right now because he just doesn't have the ability to enter long lane and farm. Well is falling further and further behind, and with an emergency build, you have to say, the Brutalizer into the pickaxe is certainly not a snowball choice from him. He's just going to fall further behind if they can't find a safe place for him to farm.
Yeah, TBQ gonna head towards this tunnel near the Grump, and they're going to start the steal of another blue buff here. Here's LGD. Wayless finding his way actually into the blue buff pit, which is definitely going to help him out as far as getting caught is concerned. They still do have a little bit of a lead. Scrying all going to be used by Well here. And Acorn pressuring him at the same time. And as you mentioned, I mean, this Graves unable to catch a break in this game.
You can understand why Acorn is rotating after watching the previous series. Right? If you just sit in a long laning phase and let Cola get to that Trinity Force spot, which in terms of a 1v1 laning phase, Rumble just not able to run over a Hecarim, too tanky, too much spell vamp coming through from the Spirit of Dread W, you might get outscaled into the late game. LGD trying to get as many advantages in the early game as possible, and you have to say it's been minimal. It's only been a turret, and they didn't even pick up the first dragon either. They need to double down on picking up some of those early game structures, those early game dragons. Otherwise, you do risk a massively farmed horse in the late game.
Yeah, and of course, actually, Royal Club capitalizing beautifully on poor positioning from LGD in order to pick up that dragon, and that is a massive boon for them because LGD looking to try and keep pressure on this game, and Royal Club, they can sit back and just say, we got our first dragon, this is fine. The rest of them, until that fifth, aren't going to be as important, and we can just farm it out. Cola can get huge. Korn can build a Magize and pick up every assist on the map and then be able to delete people instantly, and well, he can find his way back into this game.
And with the Assassin nerfs that we've seen, of course, this is 5.2, so Fizz has already been nerfed on this patch. Ari will be tuned down in future patches. Lux just becomes more and more of an attractive pick, but everyone's coming to kill Well.
Speaking of attractive picks, Well is looking very attractive here on this bottom side. Zenith Blade not going to land, but Well I don't know where you are going to go, my friend, because there are a lot of members of LGD looking to pick up a kill.
I mean, interestingly, they could have left that kill to 4 members of the team. Only Ari not rotating bottom. They choose to give it to Akon, moves him towards the Zhonyas. You'd have to think a little bit quicker. They did not leave it for him.
Yeah, 50 seconds on this Dragon. This top outer turret going to go uncontested here for Royal Club as they make use of a poor situation. And turret for a kill, especially a kill going to a player that's already fairly behind, you have to say. It's going to work out quite well unless this inner turret goes down on the bottom side.
The mid turret is also very, very low. They're finally going to be able to pick that one up. It forces Lux to go even further back and position even more defensively with all the roams and pressure PYL's been put into the mid lane. And as you mentioned, strong damage coming to the inner bot turret as well.
Yeah, and Imp really liking this Bloodthirster start here. Of course, used that last on his Lucian as well. Now it seems to be just a flavor pick for Imp. Just really likes having that extra shield, the extra lifesteal as well.
Well, he's going to have double shields. Of course, Lux potentially going to get a shield onto him in a team fight. But the one thing it means is he could, well, as we see, the solar flares flashed away from Zero. But the one thing you can say about the Bloodthirster is that the significant thing for him is there's a lot of gap close coming through from Star and Royal Club. They've got Hecarim and Vaya going to be straight on top of Imp in every fight. So a bit more defensive stats, a bit more lifesteal. That could be very necessary in the next fight.
Oh yeah, and we'll see whether Imp does decide to go for that Blade of the Ruin King on top of it. Of course, the double lifesteal items just to keep him as healthy as possible as long as he's auto-attacking. And you have to think that POL going to want a Mercurial Scimitar, Mikhail's Crucible, I'm sorry, at some point in order to keep Imp safe. And especially when he's going to get locked down by Insect almost every time. I
mean, the lockdown is significant onto Imp. He's going to need every defensive option and the defensive peeling coming through from Leona. Leona wants to build tanky because she prefers to be a frontline initiator rather than necessarily a peel support. In fact, in terms of peel, LGD have got almost nothing for Imp, so Imp's going to have to be fairly self-sufficient. The Bloodthirster Shield, that's the beginning. Of course, it scales with levels, so it gets stronger as we go on. And as you mentioned, maybe it has to be the more defensive build. You know, the Blade the Ruin King into the Hurricane, perhaps, just to try and do consistent damage, but can't really focus on, say, the Infinity Edge, Static Shiv, Last Whisper standard 80 carry build, because he just doesn't have the peel to continue to do that damage in a fight.
Yeah, and I mean, it's going to be very, very difficult for Korn. I mean, thinking about this Lux pick again, just in response to the team comp that's been picked up, especially when the carries, for this team are going to be a Callista and an Ahri. When are they ever going to be standing still enough to get hit by a light binding?
I mean, you say that, but you can see from the item pick on Akon, he's already rushed the Home Guard enchantments. They're looking to group up and fight as much as possible early. They understand that in the late game, Lux would, double dip defensiveness with offense, stack that AP, get a stronger shield onto her teammates. And Cola, he's just farming up. He's just getting stronger. He's very close to Trinity Force, actually now about 150 gold away from completing that item. I feel like this game is to some degree on a timer for LGD. They need to finish it early. Even as you mentioned, it's going to be hard to hit those Lux combos. Of course, Lux can have a damage flash away from you. Miss one of those spells, you lose a lot of your burst potential. It's the consistent damage and the defensive stats. Team fighting from Starhorn Royal Club in the late game is going to be scary.
Yeah, and there's as well as the fact that, Korn is going to be building a heap of AP, and he's going to be able to insta-clear these waves as well. So not a lot of siege potential coming through for LGD towards the later stages of this game. Insect going to find Akon here as well. There's the final spark, going to get flashed out of the way of here as well. Devastating charge though, doing some work, but Akon turns it around. That equalizer was fantastic. Insect survives, but Caller's going to die.
Just too much aggression coming through from Caller. Thought he could get the exit kill, a 1-for-1 trade, but Akon just lives at the back of the fight. Just enough health. He doesn't have teleport available. He's just going to clear waves, so they cannot push as a 5-man unit.
Yeah, and even on this low health, of course, knows that he's not going to be responded to here. Kohler going to be up in another 10 seconds with that teleport available. We'll see whether he heads towards that top side to capitalize on Akorn's lack of health here, but PYL is hanging around. TBQ also here in order to assist.
A lot of credit to Well. He's actually brought back the CS advantage from Imp significantly. Only 26 CS behind now. No Infinity Edge. Doesn't want a group. Definitely isn't team fight ready, but is clawing back what was looking like an unassailable lead. Remember, Imp was 2-0 in this lane.
Yeah, and of course, has been sitting on that BF Sword Pickaxe Brutalizer for quite some time as well. Might have a bit of bank in his back pocket, as you can see. Does have about 1,000, so wants to wait another 300 gold before he can pick up that item. And Still behind 1,300 gold, though, to his lane opponent.
And one of the main reasons that Starhan Royal Club have lost their outer ring of turrets is they've had to respect the fact that Imp was teamfight ready and Well wasn't. You know, they were kind of sticking back, just allowing their carries to farm. Both Korn and Well significantly pressured during their laning phase, weren't close to their big core items, weren't teamfight ready, but they'll be looking to teamfight soon. Now that Trinity Force is completed, once Infinity Edge comes through and the Death Cap comes closer for Korn, this could be some really close team fights.
Oh, PYL just missing that Zenith Blade onto Insec. Of course, that Vault Breaker really helping Insec out as far as keeping him safe, but another blue steel going to come through. Whaler's going to pick that one up yet again. Well, did go back and pick up that Cloak of Agility, but that's not an Infinity Edge. That's not the power spike that he's looking for in this inner turret now. A massive wave of minions. Final Spark going to clear them out fairly well as PYL comes through. That's a beautiful equalizer, and Korn just dies. Collateral damage not going to do enough as the double kills there for TBQ. And LGD, they're not done. The teleport to come down onto this inhibitor turret, but that is just a very defensive move from Kohler. He's got the ultimate. No ignite here, and Insect looking to maybe get something to happen, but without any damage on the side of Royal Club as far as their mid and bottom lane carries are concerned. Nothing they can do. The
solar flare into equalizer combo we alluded to during the champ set was in full effect. Burn down Korn from full health. Of course, hasn't gone through the Fiend's Unholy Grail. Only has magic resist from runes and masteries. Just dies instantly. Just one burst rotation coming through from Acorn. You give this man Rumble, it's very difficult to win a game.
Yeah, and he's got that Zhonya's Hourglass now as well, so going to be a whole lot safer, going to get lots of rounds of spells. And we talk about, you know, Rumbles that are equalizer bots. Acorn going to be able to get right into the mix and then use that Zhonya's to keep himself alive and get even more Flame Spitter damage down.
I mean, the flexibility of the Zhonya's, I mean, obviously gives you AP, makes your equalizer stronger, but it opens yourself up to get into the backline, overheat with the Flame Spitter, and do damage to the backline as well. Usually a Rumble, if you see the Leandries, is going to look to ult and then maybe use the Harpoons for peel for the AD carry. But with this build, you can dive, you have the stasis, you're a bit like Lissandra, doing AoE magic damage to the backline, and you're deceptively tanky just with that stasis option.
Imp going to continue down here. Actually went for a Zeal, and this is very interesting to me. Probably looking to go for more of a 1v1 type, sort of not aiming to teamfight too much, because of course that Hurricane's so fantastic if you want a teamfight, just for that extra AoE, with the fact that Kallista's range very, very close to that that Hurricane range, and the Rend also stacking on multiple targets. What do you think the thinking is here, going for potentially a Phantom Dancer instead?
So I feel like if this game had gone differently, we wouldn't have seen this Zeal. But you look down the lineup, Rumble's a mid-game champion, 3-0-2, very set for items in the mid-game. Ahri, you'd give her the mid-game advantage over Lux as well, has a death cap. So Ahri, her double AP is doing a lot of damage. So in the late game, that's the worry for LGD. If they go for this Hurricane build, for example, there is the potential that Kohler gets enough armor that he can dive onto Imp, separate him from a fight, and you won't be able to burst through that tanky Hecarim with the Bloodthirster and Hurricane build. That's what we've seen consistently, is that if you have a super tank in the front line splitting away, ensuring that none of that AoE Rend comes in, there's no potential for a Rend set, that's when Imp's Callista falls down. But going for a more traditional AD carry build with the Phantom Dancer, the single target damage is what's being focused on.
Yeah.
At the moment, he'll be able to deal with that Hecarim. And again, if you go that standard AD carry build, you give yourself more options to take out a single diving front line. And that's what it is from Starhan Royal Club, at least early. It's just Kohler with armor.
Yeah, and he doesn't even have all that much of that. He's got the Glacial Shroud, and that's it, apart from his runes and masteries. So going to be a little bit more difficult to tank up all of this damage to come through from a 2-item Callista here. I
mean, if Imp needed power now, absolutely, given the items, go the Hurricane, wreck the next team fight or two, but there is that potential of being outscaled 35, 40 minutes into the game. If you go for less immediate power, but more late game insurance with the Phantom Dancer, you're just looking at Acorn and Wayless on this Ahri Rumble combo to do a bit more work in the mid game and buy time for that late game item build from Imp to be finished.
Now turning his attention to the Gromp here on the bottom side. That inhibitor turret is still exposed. In a turret in the mid lane going to be defended as the Dragon. It's come back up, and you have to think that LGD got a monopoly on this particular objective.
I mean, Royal Club needs setup for their fights. They need Lux to be sitting at the back, doing damage from 1,000 range. That's why you mentioned the Medjais. Her positioning is usually so conservative that you can pick up the stacking item and live, much like maybe a Janna from support would. So given that it's only the second dragon, you don't really need to compete for that second dragon. It only really is a window towards the third and eventually the fifth coming through from LGD. So leave it down, try and get some sort of advantage in this next 6 minutes. You know, look for some wards, look to contest. You need to contest the next one, but for now you concede most of the objectives. Just no Baron giveaways.
Yeah, you probably don't want your enemy team, who struggles with Siege as it is, to be able to pick up that Baron, and we'll see whether Royal Club can actually manage to take this one down. Cola's going to find Acorn here on the top side. There's the flash into the Vault Breaker, finds its target, the Equalizer. Acorn goes for the turnaround, didn't even Zhonya's, because he wasn't going anywhere. Royal Club, they pick up a kill, but they might lose some objectives for this one. Wayless in the mid lane, Imp in the bottom lane here as well. Well, unable to do anything to answer this one, and Wayless almost takes down this inner turret. Oh, the flash into the charm, but doesn't quite find it. Korn just gets torn apart by Wayless's damage. There's the Prey Seeker. Orbit Deception doesn't find him. Flash out of the way of that Solar Flare as well, and they can't quite find it, but that's a lot of summoner spells down.
I mean, the consistent damage of this reworked Ahri is so insane. A lot like an AD carry, to be honest. It's not the first burst you have to respect, although it almost instant killed Korn. The continuous rotations with those short cooldowns on the Foxfire and the Orb of Deception need to be respected as well. 2 targets limp away from the battle with summoners used, and Wayless, that death cap, okay, if he makes a mistake, he doesn't have the stasis to reset, but the damage has to be respected.
Oh, yeah, and it's actually even items here between Korn and Wayless. Of course, Wayless going to be sitting on a little bit more gold, you have to think, of course, with that 50 CS advantage. The extra couple of assists here as well. Probably got a bit in his back pocket, not to mention 5 turrets to 1, which is a lot of global gold here for LGD. They do have a 7,000 gold lead. And Royal Club looking to try and get back into this one. Of course, they do have some hopes in the late game, but with the likes of Imp sitting on this Kalista here as well, things looking dangerous. He has picked up the Alacrity enchantment, going to be bouncing around a lot more effectively, and the pickaxe now as well. So looking to go very, very standard with this build, but not really bothering as far as the crit enhancement with that Infinity Edge is concerned.
Yeah, without the peel, it's Operation Kill the first target that dives at me. Whether it's the Vi or the Hecarim, you know it'll be one or the other, or both potentially. He wants to live through the burst and have enough damage to be able to take down those divers, because he understands nobody on his team is looking to peel from him. He won't live long enough to spread damage or to skip past the tanks. So I like the build. I like the adaptation. I also liked it when STYZ pulled out a very similar build against the double dive coming through from Vici last week. So again, moving away from this pigeonholed Hurricane AoE build, moving away from the Ren sets into just being a standard AD carry, I think it really helps Imp in this case.
Yep, Solarflare going to find Zero this time though. No flash to get him out of it, and Imp makes short work of the support player. This might mean a Baron if LGD really want to go for it.
You know they do, Atlas.
Yeah.
If they pick up this Baron, Star and World Cup are in a lot of trouble. They have good wave clear, but against Baroned up mid, it's going to be so hard. But for now, they've taken the turret bottom. They need to contest soon.
Yeah, I don't think they're even going to go for it. Of course, Kalista so much lockdown, and that's still not going to come through. Of course, Final Spark getting some damage down to the members of LGD. It's going to be difficult for them to fight. But look at the Equalizer there, and Insect just gets picked to death. That was ridiculous.
The pick power of the Equalizer is not something we have to refer to, but it's Acorn. The sniper sights are on. They pick up the exit kill on Insect. He's dead, and they're going to try and push in, even with a poor siege comp, as you mentioned it. Not a lot of range on either of their carries. With the bound up minions, it's going to be very hard to defend.
Yeah, and look at the tankiness of these minions here as well. Imp just happy to go very deep into this base. Tears apart the turret. Cola now looking to try and defend this one out, but the inhibitor already down to half health. The Onslaught of Shadows is in there. Imp just focuses down Cola, and he just dies. Oh my goodness. Zero gonna follow up as well, and this is the power of the single target focus Kalista.
Absolutely completely tuned for single target damage and explodes Cola. He has 2 armor items, but not an armor stack. And they're continuing the push, and they want to finish the game so early.
Yeah, they're looking to finish this one off. Charm lands onto Insect. He's going to die. Acorn now onto Well. Look at that Flame Spitter eat the Graves. And Xuen looking to go back in. Look at the Unburrow coming down as well. TBQ may have gone a little bit deep, but is he going to survive? He's going to survive. That is just insane. The rage when he's burrowed there as well, giving him back the extra health in order to survive that fight. And LGD just looking unstoppable
The
this
regen
game.
coming in from Baron. As you mentioned, the re-burrow was so fortuitous for TBQ. He just lives, and again, credit to the single target build from him. He understands, I need to kill divers, and I've got enough lifesteal and this Bloodthirster shield to live through the burst. But Insect, he died instantly after respawn. He spent basically the last 2 minutes with a gray screen.
Yeah, it's just terrifying. And Wayless, yet again, I mean, this is 2 full item purchases that he's made in subsequent backs. He's got the Void Staff. Now he's finished off that Abyssal Scepter as well.
Face check this Ahri at your own peril.
Yeah, Zero actually going to do a very similar thing to the Rek'Sai here, but the rest of his team is round the corner. Lightbinding not going to find Imp on this Kalista as well, but here's Wayless. He lands the Shaman to Kola, tries to get onto Imp. He is going to die finally as Korn so incredibly low. Well, he's going to die at the same time. Solar Flare from the backside from PYL is going to lock that one down, and LGD, I have to feel, probably just going to try and finish out this game.
611 AP completed about the 27.5 minute mark. Wayless is a monster, so are LGD. Live up Akon's Rumble at your peril, and it's going to be an easy victory for LGD.
And Imp, even though he's not going to be able to use it, has a frozen mallet here on Kalista, and I love that purchase. AoE slow? Well, not AoE, because of course he doesn't have the Hurricane, but man, that's an exciting idea.
Who needs synergy when you're 14,000 gold behind ahead at 29 minutes? Going to try and kill down Insect. Why bother finishing the game? And I believe that's the end.
Yeah, beautiful plays coming through from LGD. They really put on a show for us there, and I wanted to see whether that Frozen Mallet was actually going to work out. Of course, not quite as effective on a ranged champion, but man, Imp just has some fun ideas on that champion.
Ironically, without going for the Infinity Edge, without going for the second crit item, he probably could have gone happily for the Hurricane and had the AoE slow, which would have been interesting, an interesting synergy come through. I think he just wanted to spend his gold. He knew the game was over. Pickaxe builds into the Frozen Mallet at a very expensive premium.
Zephyr, I'm not going to lie.
The mana Zephyr.
Just a shout out to Wayless, who can't actually build it as effectively on Ahri.
You shouldn't use words like can't with Wayless. Wayless.
That's true.
Jungle items, he picks those
he couldn't
up.
because he wasn't in base. He was busy winning the game.
Absolutely. He couldn't pick it up because he was too far away from the shopkeeper.
Yeah, unfortunate. It's a real shame that you can't use the enemy shopkeeper. Otherwise, he probably could have gone in and done that one. But definitely a great performance from LGD, and we'll see whether they can follow it up in the second match because, of course, Royal Club, they showed some skills there towards the mid-game, but it was just the early snowball, the 2-0 on both of the carries very early on from LGD that really put them in a position where they could just win the game.
And probably the most interesting thing for me to note, having watched those last 2 games in a row, Rumble versus Hecarim for a second time, Akon understood what to do. If you just sit in lane and watch Hecarim farm a Trinity Force, you're going to have a bad time. But if you get those early home guards and just use your teleport, use your team fight starting, team fight ending equalizer, depending on which team fight that game, and just win advantages, allow the enemy to seed advantages across the map, you can win the game before Hecarim's ever a relevant threat.
Yeah, exactly. And POL managing to roam this map yet again. But we'll see whether LGD can close out the 2-0 victory when we get back after this short break.